This is Peter Brötzmann interview for Subradar in Kongsberg, Norway. You know, being a German kid after the war was not so easy because you had a lot of questions to your father, to this generation of people, why the things could happen which had happened in the Second World War. But the answers were very, very rare, and so you had to find answers for yourself and inspirations for the music. They, beside the other way around. I always, as a kid already, I liked, for some unknown reason, I liked jazz music. Maybe because my parents' household was full of European classic, and I needed something else. So I started when I was 12, 13, listening to the little information you could get from the radio stations, especially the Voice of America was a good help. And so I started to listen to, early Louis Armstrong, Hot 5, Hot 7, Duke Ellington, the early stuff, and I still do. I still listen to the same music. You can't see what people are doing in the arts separate from what's going on in the rest of the world. Means politics and just normal daily life. So in the 60s, as well in the US as in Europe, it was a kind of very special feeling for us young guys, because we really thought we would be able to change the world to a little better place. And that had that way of thinking and feeling had a big impact on what the music was sounding like. I mean, you had in the US, we had the riots in Detroit, in Washington, D.C., in the South. Martin Luther King was killed. Vietnam was on the way. And people like Eldridge Cleaver or Angela Davis were active. They came to visit us in Europe. I've heard both of them in Berlin at that days. And we, of course, especially in Germany, we had the idea that what happened before and during the Second World War never should happen again. And because, for example, the first government we had after the war, the Adenauer area, and the Adenauer government was still occupied by a lot of old Nazis. And of course, that was what we didn't want. We want a much more free and open society. And whenever I started to travel very early, to other first European countries. Holland was just a little step over the border, and whenever I was in Amsterdam or Rotterdam, that was another feeling of life. That was a much more freer way of breathing, and it was an open world. And then the next step was going to London and Great Britain, anyway, to Scotland. That was really a different way of life, and I liked that very much. And we had our sometimes very physical fights with our authorities in our German society. But you didn't have that only in Germany, of course. Remember the riots in Paris, in London. I mean, Evan Parker, the guy I'm playing with tonight, he could tell you similar stories from the English situation. And all that, of course, melted into the music too. So the music was much more violent and focused, and played with much more passion than it is played by the younger guys nowadays. They have, which I find out, mostly no political idea, and they all come out of some conservatories, and they are skilled, they know about composition, they know about contrapoint, all things, nothing to say anything against that, but if you don't know what to do with it, then the result is very artificial. And if you just learn already in your studies how to find your place in the market, that is a completely wrong idea about the way I'm thinking about music. So I'm more or less disappointed by most of the music of the younger guys I hear nowadays. It's not played with any passion, it's played with a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge, but there is no fucking soul involved. And I know that I'm generalizing now, but it's to 90% it's the case. And so I don't know what the future of the music will be. I mean, of course, we old guys, we will vanish, more or less. I mean, Ornette Coleman, for example, had to stop playing because of health reasons. Cecil Taylor is not in a very good shape. And a lot of friends and comrades out of the old times, of course, they are dead or on the way. So I don't know what to expect from the younger generation. And that's sad to say, but I'm not very optimistic. You know, in these years I'm busy with the music, distribution always was the main point, because if you do something, of course you want it to get the product to the people. And I think I was in the mid of 60s, I was the first one in Europe who was setting up his own record label, which ended later on in the free music production in Berlin, which existed from 69 to 90 or something like that. And at the same time, mid of 60s, the Instant Composers Pool in Amsterdam started to produce their own stuff, and together with that, the Incas, to name musicians like Derek Bailey, Tony Oxley, Evan Parker, for example. They were setting up their label because we realized there is an audience for this kind of music, but we have to get it to the people. And I think that worked quite well. And because the big distributions at that time were never interested in our kind of music, because for them it was not the couple of hundreds, or if it comes to a higher level, a couple of thousands were not very interesting for them. And nowadays you don't have distributions at all anymore, and you don't have what you could call real record labels anymore. I'm lucky that, for example, together with a handful of friends, I'm working together with the Vienna label, which is doing our stuff in a very professional way. We organized our own little distribution company, Catalytic, in Chicago, including European and American musicians. But the main point is that you have a couple of bands you're on the road with. You have to, the live music is the main point to get the music under the people. And that's not easy, and it's hard work, but that's the only way to get people interested in the music. And the audience is there. That it's worldwide, of course, a very special audience. We are not the Rolling Stones, but we have our audience, and we just have to bundle all the different activities to make the whole thing quite efficient. The other thing is that the way of produce a record, a CD, a vinyl, whatever, is nowadays so easy from the technical side that, of course, everybody is producing his own stuff, and there's so much crap on the market, and the market is small, that it makes it quite difficult to find your way to get the music distributed. But that means the music has to be strong and has to be sensitive and has to be convincing. And we are trying. To survive in this difficult world, you have to be very consequent. On the other hand, it's not the time anymore that you are able to be on the road with just one special band and survive with that. That means myself and my comrades, we are all busy with different bands. Since I finished the Chicago Quintet, which had economic and music reasons, I come back to smaller bands again, and I just finished a tour in the States with my old comrades, William Parker and Hammy Drake. This will be, or still is, a trio I like to work with. I work with a bunch of English guys, especially with the English drummer Steve Noble, bass player Johnny Edwards, which I like very much, and of course not to forget my Norwegian connection. That is a long time work with Paul Nielsen Love. We will see what we can do in the future. He is a very busy young man at the moment, but for sure we will do something again next year. Maybe with a Moroccan gambri player, Mokhtar Gania. He is the younger brother of the famous Mahmoud Gania. That will be a special point. And I'm working with a trio already since 15 years now, with two Swiss musicians, Michael Wertmüller on the drums and Marino Pliakas on the bass, E-bass. And Wertmüller is a very interesting guy because he is in the field of contemporary music. He is quite a well-known composer, and we are doing some work together to combine the jazz music, the improvised music, and the cooperation with some ensembles of the contemporary music field. Of course I'm always curious to see and to meet other musicians. I forgot my very strong Japanese connection. There's an old friendship with Keiichi Haino and with some old gentleman my age, Muriyama, it's a drummer, and Sato, piano player, and the koto player Michio Yagi, and a good younger drummer Honda. So yeah, I'm busy enough in a way with all that, and very interesting my connections to China are developing. I can't say that I find musicians there at the moment, but there is for sure an audience, and with the audience you will reach musicians too. I will see what's coming out of that. But the main thing, of course, are my American connections and the English and the Japanese. Yeah.